The Reflection of Ether. My name is Amelia Roth, a neuroscientist and a specialist in human consciousness. My life had always been dedicated to unraveling the mysteries of the mind, but nothing could prepare me for what I was about to discover. It all began with an experiment in my lab where we were analyzing brain patterns in states of deep meditation. One night, while I was reviewing the results, I noticed something strange, a signal in the data that did not come from the human subjects. It was a perfect pattern, a frequency that seemed to repeat itself every time someone reached a state of absolute meditation. The signal was too complex to be random, but what was most disturbing was that, when I amplified it, a voice echoed through the lab. "Can you see me?" Panic filled me. It was impossible. There was no microphone or receiver connected. However, the voice continued. "You are not who you think you are. Everything you know is an illusion." The voice was not heard again, but it left an indelible mark on me. I began researching forgotten theories, archaic concepts that modern scientists had discarded. One of them was the ether hypothesis, an idea that physical reality is nothing more than a projection of something larger, something intangible. I discovered ancient writings that spoke of a veil that separates our perception from true existence. According to these texts, human consciousness was a reflection, an echo of entities that existed on a plane beyond space and time. My obsession grew. I installed advanced equipment in my laboratory to try to pick up the signal again. One night it worked, but this time, it wasn't a voice. It was an image, a translucent figure, looking human but lacking defined features, hovered in the air in front of me. "You are one of us, but you have forgotten that," he said in a cold, distant tone. The figure introduced itself as Kale, a being from what he called the ether, a plane where all things exist simultaneously, without time or fixed form. According to Kale, humans were not real in the traditional sense. Our existence was a collective dream, a simulation created by the minds of the real beings who inhabited the ether. "Everything you think is solid is a lie we tell to entertain ourselves," Kale explained. I felt my sanity crumble. I asked him why we had been created. His answer was as disturbing as it was revealing. "We are immortal entities, incapable of experiencing pain or pleasure. You are our masks, our ways of feeling what we cannot. But the dream is failing. Soon you will wake up, and when you do, you will understand that none of this was real." After Kale's visit, my perception of reality began to change. Everyday objects seemed unstable, as if they were vibrating slightly, as if the fabric of what we call reality was falling apart. The dreams I had became more and more lucid, more terrifying. In one of them, I was in a vast void, surrounded by figures like Kale, but more defined, more human. They watched me with interest, as if they were waiting for something. One night, while I was reviewing my notes, the entire lab was filled with that strange frequency. This time, the signal was not external. It came from my own mind. I closed my eyes and saw myself in an impossible place, an infinite room filled with mirrors reflecting versions of myself I had never met. One of those versions spoke. "Amelia, the dream is ending. The ether awaits you." I decided to face my destiny. I activated all the equipment in my lab and let the frequency envelop me. It felt like my body was dissolving, and when I opened my eyes, I was no longer in the lab. I was in the ether. The figures around me were immense, immeasurable, but there was something familiar about them. They were fragments of myself, of everyone who had ever existed in the collective dream. "Welcome home," they said in unison. The ether was not a physical place, but a state of pure consciousness, an infinite sea of ideas, memories, and possibilities. I understood that human life was nothing more than an experiment, a way for these entities to try to understand individuality and emotion. But I also understood something more terrifying. The dream was collapsing. The barriers between the ether and our reality were crumbling, and when they finally came down, everything we knew would be gone, absorbed into infinity. I tried to go back, but it was too late. My body, my laboratory, my world, all of it was left behind. Now, as I float in this vast void, I understand that we were never real. We were an ephemeral spark in an eternal ocean of consciousness.